Welcome to the Jones Zone, a podcast by Darryl and JJ Jones.
Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Jones Zone. I'm your host, Darryl Jones, and today we have a guest who is about to take us on a journey from the bustling landscapes of California to the wide open spaces of Wyoming. My in-laws are from Wyoming, at least my father-in-law. So our guest is Lisa Bennett. She made the bold move from the sun-soaked beaches and fast-paced lifestyle of California to the rugged beauty of Wyoming. So today we'll be uncovering the reasons behind her decision to leave California and behind the incredible adventure that awaited her in Wyoming. Welcome, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa, for joining.
Thank you, Darryl. It's good to see you again.
Oh, it's great to see you. So, as you know, this is we talked, of course. This is just a series of questions for people who are considering moving away from California to, in this case, Wyoming. So tell me about your personal journey from California to Wyoming. Why did you choose Wyoming?
Well, kind of Wyoming chose us a little bit. And I think ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted to be somewhere wide open, could have horses. Kind of weird how it comes back around, because when I was in first grade, I actually wrote something, says, where do you want to live? And for some reason I had put Wyoming. So I'm not sure how that all plays out, but now we're in Wyoming. We looked a lot. We actually made the move in 2014. We had started looking in 2012, and we had looked at a variety of states. My husband doesn't like the heat or super hot like desert. So we were kind of limited to, we kind of looked at Utah, Colorado. We drove up from Colorado on a Friday night thinking there was going to be a ton of traffic getting up to Wyoming. It was crazy. There was it's a 2-lane, the I-25 is 2 lanes and going north straight up from Denver. And we thought Friday night, oh gosh, because we're so used to California traffic.
Right.
So we're driving up and it's like, son of a gun. We just made it to Cheyenne in like a record amount of time. Got checked in. We kind of hung around Cheyenne for a little bit, and we were supposed to go up to Casper and then chose not to because the feel of Cheyenne just spoke to us. And then it took us a good year and a half before we wanted something on some land. Took us a while to find that. And when we finally did, we bought in 2013. Kind of did a long distance gut job with a couple local contractors. We'd come out and help them out, and then they would do what we wanted it to do. And we moved out in November of 14. And anybody now who, if you're ever thinking of making a move, our realtor in Wyoming did not tell us that it snows a lot in November in Wyoming. And so first time driving from California first time for me really driving in the snow. My husband's used to it. When we finally sold our house in Norco, California, Worthtown, USA, we made the drive. And like I said, I would never recommend moving in November. We hit a major snowstorm coming out of Utah into Evanston, Wyoming, which is at the far west side of the state. I was white knuckling it. I had one dog. My husband had a truck with a trailer and another dog, and we had radios. Thank goodness. He said, just don't do anything stupid. Don't jerk your stay in my tracks. Okay. I mean, we pulled into Evanston, Wyoming, which is, like I said, far west corner of the state. And it was like 2 a.m. I was scared to death because of all the snow coming sideways, and I'd never done that before. And we pulled in, we were like the only tracks on the road, and we got into our hotel, sacked out. And we finally made the final drive, but it was -20 when we arrived at our new house in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And that was -20, probably felt like -40. So that was our welcome to Wyoming. California, we both retired. I'm a retired school teacher and school principal from Ontario, California, and my husband's a retired Los Angeles County Sheriff Sergeant. After 35 years, we both were done. We knew we would leave California, even though it's a beautiful state. I do miss the weather. I miss the beaches. I don't miss the traffic. I don't miss the nonstop pace. So Wyoming kind of picked us as well.
What's the capital of Wyoming?
Cheyenne, Wyoming, straight up from Denver. So if you're ever looking at weather maps or when they're talking about the weather on TV, Denver, we are straight north of Denver. So we're in kind of the lower southeastern part of the state.
Surrounded by Colorado, Montana, Idaho.
We touch Idaho, Montana, Utah on the west side, Nebraska, and South Dakota on the east side, and then Colorado is directly south.
Have there been a lot of Californians moving to Wyoming? Have you noticed that? Or
once people realize that it's okay to say you're from California, there are more Californian people here. It took us about a year to 2 years. We always kind of went, we're from California, because they always say, don't California or Wyoming.
Yeah.
And there's less than 600,000 people in the whole state. We're about 580,000, 585 for the whole state. And it is very much a red state. There's some parts parts of it that are not as red as they used to be, but there are more people coming. As a realtor, I'm seeing many more cash offers on houses because I knew even when we sold in California, we did okay on our California property, but it definitely helped when we moved here.
Yeah, the beauty of leaving California and going to a different state is you can give your pick of the litter because of the money you get from your California house.
Absolutely.
How does Wyoming real estate landscape differ from that of California? Are there any key elements potential home buyers should take into consideration other than the moving? You don't want to move in November or December during
Don't move
winter
during the
time.
winter.
Yeah.
Unless you have to.
Any other kind of advice that you can give to a Californian?
It's really do the research, really spend some time. My husband and I, we would fly out almost once a month or once every other month and a half to come and look at properties. And so we kind of got a good feel for it, we thought. I think the weather is kind of a surprise. I knew it would be cold. My husband was worried about that. I knew it would be cold. Long underwear during the winter is kind of part of your uniform. It's whatever you wear to stay warm. But I think we were both surprised by how much wind we get. The snow's not bad or the wind's not bad, but when you put them together, it kind of gets miserable. And we like to be outside, but sometimes with the way the winds are blowing, I mean, we're talking, sometimes it's just 20 miles an hour, but other times we're having typical 40, 50, 60 mile an hour winds during the day. It makes it sometimes hard if we want to take the horses out or we want to just be outside walking. It's tough.
Is there like a wind season? Is there sometime there's windier than others, or it can happen anytime?
It can happen anytime. We've been close to a couple tornadoes, but I mean, moving into winter, we've got 60, 70, sometimes 80 mile an hour winds. And so we have special roofs on our house. They're all like class 4, class 5 roofs, things that I never had to think about in California.
Right.
I think the weather's a key, but there's a lot to do in the area. And even if you sometimes go down to Colorado or travel up northern, Wyoming, there's a lot to do. It's just sometimes like we kind of look at it and go, okay, we may be able to get somewhere, but will we be able to get home in a week if the weather starts to snow and ice up?
Let's talk about that. So you said there's a lot to do. Tell us a little bit of what you guys like to do.
We have our couple horses. We probably don't ride near as much as we used to when we were in California. There's that. There's fishing. We've got by Cheyenne, we've got a nice set of lakes that are about maybe 20 minutes west, and they're pretty much open all the time. And if you also do mountain biking, we don't, but mountain biking or like hiking, there's a ton to do even around Cheyenne. If you go a little further west, we have, Medicine Bow, we have the big mountains. There's ski slopes. If you head north, I mean, we have little towns, little itty bitty towns like Chugwater and Wheatland, which are kind of drive-by towns. They're fun, and there's a really good chocolate malt place, soda fountain in Chugwater. Keep on going, you hit Casper, you head up north, and you can end up in Jackson or Cody. Jackson, we have not made it up to Jackson, but it's also a very well-known. There's a lot of folks that have moved there. A lot of actors and stuff live up in that area.
Are there any particular areas that seem to be very popular with people from out of state moving to?
Yellowstone.
Okay.
The Grand Tetons. Probably Jackson. We've got a lot of skiing that happens in Colorado because there's Aspen and Colorado Springs, all that. We do have skiing here, but we don't ski anymore. We're at that age where we just don't.
Yeah, no, same here. So how's the cost of living, Wyoming compared to California?
Oh my goodness. We love it here for that. There's no state income tax, no corporate tax. Property taxes are lower than California. They've gone up though, but the house values have gone up. And that's one of the reasons our property taxes have jumped. Those whole years of COVID, 2020, 2021, even 2022, housing prices skyrocketed from 2019 over those next 2 to 3 years. People here are feeling it because our property taxes have gone up. Percentage really hasn't changed, but the value of the homes has.
On that note, percentage, for example, Orange County mostly is 1.1%. What's the percentage of taxes?
Right about 0.6%.
0.6.
0.5 or 0.6.5. Yeah, it's not high by state.
That's very low.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you mentioned some nice iconic parts of Wyoming. Yellowstone, of course, is probably the biggest attraction, I guess you could say, and the Grand Tetons. People that like the outdoors, Wyoming's the place for them for sure.
Yeah.
How far are you from the closest airport? Let's say you were to fly back to California. What would you do? Walk us through that.
Basically 2 hours. We drive down to Denver International. And we have a small regional airport in Cheyenne. It has private planes that come in. We're also an Air Force. We also have the National Guard and we are Air Force here. We have Warren Air Force Base. So we have a lot of military flying in and out. But our little airport, they just finished redoing it again. United Airlines has one of their kind of little jets that will pick up in the morning, drive you or fly you down to Denver. By the time you get down there, it's only about 20, 25 minutes. But the flight times are either super early in the morning or they change in the afternoon. So trying to find connecting flights makes it a little tough. But otherwise, we just drive straight down the I-25.
2 hour
About 2
drive to
hours.
Denver, and then the
Uh-huh.
flight from Denver to California is what,
A little over 2 hours.
Okay. What about if anybody wanted to drive to California? What's the drive from?
I want to say 18 to 24 hours, but I could be way off on that because
Ah,
we haven't done it in a while. But I know it's usually we would stop in Utah and then make the drive from Utah through Vegas, and then 15 heading into California.
any new housing tracts being built right now in Wyoming?
We do have in Cheyenne, we have had a lot of housing starts. Builders are still building, but the houses are sitting longer. We've got a new development just south of Cheyenne. It's between Cheyenne and the border to Colorado, let's put it that way. And I forget how many thousands of houses it's going to be. It's going to be a huge, huge development. Probably their starting prices now on just single family homes, and they're running anywhere from probably in the mid 400,000 all the way up. I showed a house over there that was about $700,000 range. My clients just went under contract. They're getting the basement finished on their house, so they're at 550. It's probably about 3,500 square feet.
So for 550,000, you've got a 3,500 square foot newer house, single story, 2-story?
Single story with a basement. So it's ranch
With a
style
basement.
Mhm.
And then how big a lot does that have?
That is probably less than it's about a third of an acre at the most. Maybe
Okay,
a
around
quarter of an acre. So yeah.
15,000 square foot lot, which is maybe small in Wyoming, but pretty huge compared to California.
And depending on, they just happen to pick a bigger lot, but they do have the ones that are the typical 7,000 to 7,500 square foot lots as well.
And then do you have condos? Are there condo complexes?
Not so much condos. Most of the condo complexes we have in our area are very old. To give you an idea, I just sold one to a veteran, never thought he'd own a house. First time home buyer, he's in his 50s. We just got him into a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, has a nice kitchen, bathroom, laundry, all that good stuff. We got in there at $182,000. Which is one of the lowest price points that we have here, unless you're looking at manufactured. Now he's got an HOA that's over $300 a month, but that covers quite a bit. But that's a 2-story condo complex. It's basically a fourplex. We do have a lot more townhomes and twin homes being built. And we have a lot of new builds on the twin homes. That seems to be popular because we're struggling, for affordable housing. Never thought we'd be saying that in Cheyenne, because when I first started, we were selling a lot in the $100,000, $200,000 range. Now our average, I kind of looked up some numbers for 2023, the average list price on just a city residential home within city limits was about $380,000, and rural residential, anything outside city limits, it's usually on at least an acre, if not more. They're pushing the $600,000 average now. Prices have definitely gone up. So the twin homes and the townhouses are helping some of the first time home buyers, or, it's more affordable. Our city council has been struggling with that. And so has the county.
Are there a lot of ranches there that are just enormous?
Yes, we do have quite a few, but here's the thing with the county now, everything in the county is basically on a well and septic. And so their minimum average lot size has to be 5 acres. So you may have some that are 4.7, or you may have some that are 5.3. That's the minimum. If you look north of Cheyenne, we are building like crazy. Now we're north of Cheyenne, probably about 15 minutes straight up the I-25 to where we live, and we're on almost 40 acres. In our little area is all, 40.
That's nice.
Yeah, we bought that in 2016 because we already had moved from our first house. But there's a lot at the 5 acres. And in our area, they're going anywhere from 650 to 850,000. A pretty nice size house. It's probably going to be 4,000 or 5,000 square feet with an unfinished basement. So the main floor, say 2,000 square feet, and then an unfinished basement.
There's not too many basements in California, so it's kind of foreign to me. It just occurred to me, what's the difference between a finished and unfinished basement? Maybe I'm being kind of lame right now, but does that just mean carpet, paint? What's the difference between finished and unfinished basement?
So an unfinished basement is basically just the concrete foundation. You got concrete base and concrete walls. There's no insulation, no anything. And so to have it finished, like for example, my couple that's just bought a house, the list price was $495 with an unfinished basement. They paid $550, so the basement finish is costing them between $50,000 and $60,000 to get. And that's everything. That's all the plumbing, electrical, heating, carpet, floor, any kind of flooring, all the insulation on the walls, framing the walls, drywall. Everything.
What about critters? Do you have mosquitoes, snakes, scorpions, turtles? I had one that had wild turkeys or something. But anyway, how's Wyoming full of critters? Anything?
Critter-wise, we don't miss mosquitoes. Every once in a while, if we start having a little bit of warmth during the summer, when it's maybe 70, we'll get some 80s. Maybe we'll have some mosquitoes. It's a rarity. It's freaking cold most of the time. It's cooler. It's too cool for mosquitoes, it almost seems like. We don't have to worry really about scorpions, at least not in our area. I don't think we've seen a snake. We haven't, unless you're up in the, hiking, you'll see probably snakes and things. But other than that, I mean, we have antelope that'll cross our property. We've had herds of about 50 or 60 antelope just running across our land and chewing on things, but that's fine. It wasn't hunting season, so we couldn't hunt them at that point.
What about industry? You mentioned the military, and I think if I remember correctly, there's a lot of oil and gas. What's the main industry in Wyoming?
It's always been mineral, but with
Okay.
everything that's going on, and about being carbon neutral and all this stuff, I won't get too much into that, how I feel, but we're basically coal-based. Our electricity still is coal. We have a lot of still minerals. It's just not like it was. We have had the tech companies. Microsoft just opened a huge base here, and I think they're doing 2 more buildings. We've got a lot of technology companies coming in because the cooler weather. Everything that they need needs to be kept cool. So it's much easier to keep things cooler here. So in fact, one of my clients just got hired by Microsoft. He's in his dream job. And he's like in his 30s and just is thrilled. Tons of military. We do have a lot of military here. They're in and out. They change out, every 2 to 3 years, they're getting moved around. A lot of them will buy, which is great, but then they have to sell in 2 years. And sometimes that's easy and sometimes it's not, but definitely a military town. A lot of the Western, we have Cheyenne Frontier Days in July, which is like everybody and their brother is here during those times. And it's like our population probably doubles and triples during that time. That's kind of our big, for Cheyenne, it's a big moneymaker.
What's the big school? What are the big colleges in Wyoming?
University of Wyoming up in Laramie. In fact, I'm wearing one of their shirts. In 1886, they were started. They were actually before even Wyoming became a state, and they've been there for a long time. We are all big Wyoming fans. We're college folks here, I guess it is. That's our team. In fact, Josh Allen from Buffalo Bills, who just got beat out by Kansas City a couple of weeks ago, he was the quarterback up at University of Wyoming.
Oh,
so he's
fantastic.
kind of like one of our big claim to fame. So we've got a few others that are in the pros, but he is like the guy.
All right. What about public schools? Pretty good school system there?
Throughout Wyoming, the school system is pretty good. I was doing a little bit more research on that as well. We are Laramie County School District 1. Schools have been doing really well. They're now hiring a new superintendent. They're in the middle of that process right now. But I've heard really good things about the schools. There's a couple smaller school districts that are a little bit east of us it's Laramie County School District 2. Which is really tiny. I think it's like one small high school and they're real small, but
Right.
I hear such good things about it. And people I talk to really enjoy it. And Burns is east of town. It's just a small little rural town.
Smaller school districts are actually probably better. I know it's funny because we talked about in our area, people, for example, in Brea, when there's just one high school, it creates more of a community feel opposed to being 4 high schools in one particular city.
Absolutely. And see, we have 3 high schools plus a continuation high school in just our Laramie County School District.
Now, what about restaurants? What do you got there in Wyoming to eat? Is it just all steak and baked potatoes, or we got Mexican food, Chinese food, everything?
We have a variety. There is a variety of food places. We do not have an In-N-Out. Closest one is in southern part of Colorado, and they were pretty excited when they got one. I don't know if we'll ever. I miss Jack in the Box because I miss the 24-hour you can go out. But we do have, there's obviously the steak places. We have quite a few places that are the Mexican food. It's not, it is different than California's Mexican food. I'm still a big fan of Ancho's in California and Riverside. It's like our favorite place, but it's still good. We do, believe it or not, a few sushi places, and it's kind of like, it's again, not quite California. Well, it's not like going out down to the beach and getting sushi in California. But it's still pretty good. There's some good places. So we have a variety. We have the fast food places as well. We've got a couple of really good Italian restaurants. We've got some that are opening up that have been really good. Then we have a place even called Pour Decisions, Pour Decisions. They've really done very, very well. And they've got all kinds
Pour
of
Decisions. What is that? Food or a bar?
both.
Oh, well, do you have anything that would rival In-N-Out, or do you have a hamburger chain? Just since we're on the topic.
Pour Decisions has great burgers. T. Joe's, they're well known for their steaks. And then we have like a Rib and Chop House, which again, their burgers are good, but I think we still have a Five Guys. That's not In-N-Out. We have the typical McDonald's, Taco Bell, Wendy's.
What sold you on Wyoming? What caused you to really choose and like Wyoming?
Okay, first off, we've always liked the Western atmosphere. We're from Norco, California, Horsetown, USA. I know you're familiar with that.
Sure.
I don't know if we could afford to move back into it. I was looking into Norco for grins and giggles, and it's like, we wouldn't be able to afford any of the houses that we had owned in Norco anymore. It's amazing. But then we have always loved the Western lifestyle, and we like open space, and we don't like being on top of everybody else. And so that's one of the things that sold us. But when we drove into downtown Cheyenne back in 2012, and we walked over to the Capitol, whole different atmosphere here. It took us a while to slow down because it is very easygoing here. Not as much as maybe as it was 10 years ago, but still is. But we walk over to the Capitol building. Here you go. Well, thank you. And they go, yes, ma'am, and all that kind of thing. It's like, wow, that's kind of different than California. We went into the Capitol building. I mean, you could just walk right in. They had one security guard. We talked to him a little bit. And he says, well, and we were kind of expecting, where's the metal detectors? Are they going to frisk us? Like typical California, Sacramento. And it's like, no, he says, if the governor's over there, if he's in his office, go ahead and poke your head in the door. And I was
wow.
Like, Jeff and I looked, my husband and I look at each other going, what the heck? Where are we? And we went and looked, and he wasn't there that day, but at that time he could wander all over. They've done a lot of remodeling, so it's a little bit stricter now, but people were friendly. I mean, and it wasn't the rush all the time. The people were a huge selling point.
I hear that a lot. It seems like that way of life is just a lot calmer outside of California, I suppose. There's not as much stress and hustle and bustle, I guess you can say.
We notice it when we fly out and go visit. Like my mom is still there. My brother's still there. My brother went to school with you. So
yeah, Pat.
Yeah. And so, we get there and it's like, then we start falling into that same thing because everybody's like driving, like, you're on everybody's tail and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, in 3 days, we get to go back home. We kind of look at that and it's like, then we can breathe again.
How is the medical access?
We're pretty good. We do have our own medical center here. As we've been here longer, we've gotten to know more of the doctors. I've got a great cardiologist and I'm learning who are the ones to go to. And there are times though, where a lot of folks say, Colorado's just right down the road. They do have sometimes more options in Colorado, but yet we still have our hospital. We have quite a few medical doctors, eye doctors. We have all of that. Maybe just not as much as you'd find easily in California. But We've had good luck with who we've worked with.
And take us through the seasons. It sounds as though wintertime, you've got a lot of wind and a lot of cold, and then it starts kind of warming up, thawing out, I guess you could say, in March?
We wish.
Oh, really?
I mean, the joke here is like the weather can change every 15 minutes. We could have sun, snow, rain, wind, and everything just in a 15-20 minute period of time, just rotating through. We've been here, and I know when we were looking here, we actually had snow in June one of the times we were here. But most of the time, October, November, we start getting some of the snow flurries. December is up and down. We just came out of about a week-long cold snap where it was at night -20, -30. Freezing. It felt like -50. So I was excited when we hit 0 a couple of weeks ago. There's no definitive thing with our weather. A couple of years ago in March, we had a bad enough snowstorm where it shut all of Cheyenne and our whole area down for 3 days. Nobody was going anywhere. We couldn't even get out. We've got tractors and we've got skid steer. We got all the equipment. And my husband gets a little tired of having to be out there trying to dig us out. But we also got smart and got ourselves a generator. So we have a whole house generator. If and when the power goes out, we're good.
Is there a hot month just like everywhere else or here
Probably
in America?
July and August are our warmest, but also during July, like even during Cheyenne Frontier Days, we will start to get those summer storms where sometimes we get some hellacious hail. We had a hailstorm where we had softball size hail.
Wow.
And it just came through in a swath all the way through Cheyenne. And you could just see where it went because if you had skylights, they were destroyed. And that's why we don't see as many skylights out here anymore. We had roofs damaged. We had cars. They just looked like somebody took a baseball bat to them, but you could literally see where the hail went through the back windshield, side windows, front windshield. You see a lot of cars out here with all these little dimples. They look like golf balls, but that's where the hail was hit. Knock on wood. We've been pretty good over the past few years, but we've had it where we've had these huge storms come through Frontier Days, and people are running for cover because not only is it pouring rain, but it's got hail coming.
And there's special insurances. So for example, in California, you have the option of doing earthquake insurance if one wants. They require you to have fire insurance. Are there different types of insurances is there hail insurance?
They work that into the homeowners insurance. It is worked in there, but they have raised the deductibles on that or the percentages that you have to pay first. They have raised that on that because, like I said, there was a few years where things were so trashed. It was, houses damaged. And that was also when there was a bit of a shortage on some of the building materials. So people were just struggling a bit on some of the houses.
And on that note, is it pretty common for someone, let's say a California, to go and buy 10, 20, 40 acres and then just develop? Is that kind of the most common way of people moving into Wyoming is buying some land and putting their own custom house?
It is that, but I think what's happening is some of the folks aren't trying to buy it. It's not so much as much land as they are. If they just want 5 acres, they can buy the land and work with a builder. And we've got a ton of builders out here that really specialize in 5-acre lots and developments. We have a gentleman, so we have 640 acres just west of where we live. And we weren't real happy with him. I mean, he's a nice enough guy. He happens to come from California and had a few bucks. And so he actually has his land, it's probably like 5 minutes down the road from us. He actually got approved for 92 5-acre lots, but he's not building on it right now because that means 92 more wells, 92 more septic systems. And water is a problem sometimes out here. And so that's something else people need to be aware of too. If you're looking to go rural, anything on some land, you need to make sure the water's good, the wells are good, because it costs $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 on a well to build, to drill it and get it set up, depending on how deep they have to go. So we weren't real happy with him because our water kind of comes from that area. We've got all these aquifers. I've learned a lot lately about all this. So water is a concern. And so people coming out here, the 5-acre lots, that's what they're going to have. They're going to have a well and a septic. And so it all has to be done a certain way, but our county knows how to do all that.
Well, I guess you've given some advice. Anything that I've missed, anything that you think is important for anybody who's considering moving to Wyoming should know about? Anything else? I mean, you've been pretty thorough.
I try. It's a neat state. It probably isn't for everyone. I mean, we do have people that will buy here, and after the first winter, you see the house come up on the market because it's like, oh, this isn't exactly what we expected. But I think it is the key. It's a beautiful state. It's a small state. If you want some space and you want to just have kind of more of a laid back kind of life, no state income tax, they don't tax your retirement, they don't tax your Social Security. There's some real good benefits financially. It's just balancing that with what do you want to do when you're here.
Well, I am so grateful for you doing this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm honored to be part of this.
So this wraps up the episode of the Great Escape series. We want to express our sincere appreciation to Lisa for generously sharing her experiences and everything that she did and took for her to move. How would anybody that's considering moving to Wyoming get a hold of you? Would it be best to text or call you? Or
Absolutely. They can text or call me. It's area code 307-757-6201. We only have one area code here. It's 307.
I remember that. I remember 714 being almost the only one that was used here.
I remember that too.
We got 30 of them or however many. Lisa, thank you so much. I really appreciate you participating in this and signing off from another episode of the Jones Zone. I'm Darryl Jones, and please subscribe to the channel and or watch some of our other great videos that we have. And again, thank you for watching. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.